Hi guys, Squirrel here, and welcome to my review of Train Sim World CSX Heavy Haul. Now, Train Sim World CSX Heavy Haul is the successor to Train Simulator from Dovetail Games. It is not backwardsly compatible. This is the next generation Train Simulator. Now in this video I'm going to take you through what's in the box, what you get for your money, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on the whole game. So let's get started. Well, here we are at the homepage of Train Sim World CSX Heavy Haul. As you can see, I've called myself Fred. I'm a driver level 4 on my way to level 5. We've got tutorials, scenarios, and services. Down the bottom here, we've got the homepage. We've got more detail about my driver profile. We'll go through that in a second. And then we've got the settings page, which we'll go through a bit later on. So what locos do you actually get? Well, you get 3 diesel electric locos. You get the GP38-2, you get the AC4400CW, one of my favourites, and you get the SD40-2. They are the 3 locos that you get out of the box. You also get the ability to spawn walk, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, as I've already mentioned in previous videos on the subject, preview videos, there's a tremendous amount of detail in each loco. It's finely decorated, finely built, the cable hoses move around. The chains between the carriages, you can see the tension going there. You can climb aboard all the trains, all the locos, you can decouple them. It's very, very impressive stuff. You're free to get on board, like so. You're free to walk around. And most of the stuff inside the cab is actually operational. Let me shut the door. In terms of all the switches and fuse boxes, they're all completely operational. And the details are such that, you know, you can operate the controls physically or you can operate hotkeys to move things forward. It's very impressive stuff. Now, after you've created your driver profile and named it, you're thrown into the tutorial section. The tutorials are hit and miss. They're good, but they don't go far enough in my opinion. Now, you get a whole bunch of tutorials here. They start off pretty simply enough to do with how to start the locos, then they'll take you through how to switch the track, how to use a turntable, refueling, and then they'll go on to things which are quite interesting like the coal loading and train brake theory. Now, all these tutorials are useful. However, the loco ones in particular are 3, one for each loco, and they're all identical. They take you through exactly the same thing, just in a slightly different variation for that logo. In terms of the tutorials themselves, they're not detailed enough. The coal loading and refueling is interesting, but all the tutorials I found are too short. I would have liked to have seen more advanced tutorials that go over every single control inside each loco. There are fuses boxes behind you, so why are they not covered? There's no cold and dark startup or shutdown tutorial. Dynamic braking is talked about, but it's not actually shown in a tutorial. I would have liked to have seen dynamic braking with a full load of coal behind me and got some practice at it. Train operation in treacherous conditions, for example fog, ice, blizzards, is not touched upon. Signalling is talked about but not really explained in any detail. And then you've got things like cab lights, window operations, wipers, circulation fans, sanding, the alerter system, the fuse panel. None of that is actually covered. Heating and fan controls that are of no consequence if you use them. They're not covered though. There's no cab temperature inside the train, and there's no steaming up of windows if you get your heat settings wrong. I would have liked to have seen much more detailed tutorials, but the ones that are there are useful. You're just left in the dark to figure a lot of things out yourself. Now, if you're coming from a train sim background, that may not be a problem, but if you're just getting into train simulation, you're going to scratch your head over quite a few things. Now, the game ships with one route. It's called the Sand Patch Grade, and if you look at it on a map, it's pretty detailed. Not only from an overhead point of view, you can see the turntable down here and the fuel stations along there somewhere, but within this map, within this route, it is actually incredibly detailed. If you zoom right out, you can get a sense of the scale of it. It is a pretty big route, and all the scenarios and services that you do are based on this particular route. Now, within the route itself, it actually has 100 collectible items. Now you may wonder what the point is of the collectible items. I think they're basically a way of getting you to explore the map on foot, as I'm doing here. I think this is one of them here, if you walk over to it. Yeah. Press E to start the Cumberland Switchback free play. So that's something else that you can obviously jump into. There are like hard hats and cones and all kinds of random things scattered around the route for you to pick up. And if you go back to your driver profile, you can see how many you've caught so far. So if we look at the driver profile, you can see you can filter by train, by route, and by collectible. If you filter by train, what it does is it basically breaks down how much you've done with each train. It tracks how many miles you've driven and the level that you've achieved with each train, and I kind of like that. On top of that, it also tracks your overall level and what your top best train is, how many miles you've driven. I'm not really sure what the leveling system is for at this stage. It appears to be some kind of XP system, but there doesn't appear to be any particular achievements that are hooked into it, at least not visible at this stage. Maybe they've got plans for the future. As I say, there's one route at the moment, which is this one, the Sand Patch Grade, and you can see how many of the scenarios you've done. There's 8 scenarios, you can see I've done one of them, and I have 2 out of 100 collectibles. The collectibles are here, and they're all broken down by type. This is a kind of akin to Pokemon, but I think the point of it is to get you to explore the route because it is extremely detailed in places, and they just want you to go and see what the map editors have done, I guess. Now, in terms of the scenarios, I mentioned that there are 8 of them, and here they are. I've done the first one, which is Helping Hand. That took 60 minutes to complete. You can see there's 8 of them, and the minutes duration is shown here. Now, one of them is 3 hours long, and a couple of them are 2 hours. So they're very, very long scenarios. The rest of them tend to be 30 or 40 minutes. Now, thankfully, it does have a checkpointing system built in, so you don't have to complete it all in one sitting. You can come back to it later. But that's the total of scenarios that are available. Now, they are sort of guided, not so much tutorials, but guided scenarios. The guy will talk to you, a bit like a mission, I guess, in other games. He'll talk to you and tell you what to do, kind of thing. Now, on top of that, there are services. Now, services, kind of wondering what they were at first, but they're basically broken down by each train. Now, what is going on is there is a 24-hour timetable that's in operation on the route. And what that means is, if you was to look at any particular train, they're all basically running through this timetable here. You can observe this. You can jump in at a particular time and place, and you can see the AI going about its business running the schedule. You're free to hop on and off the train itself, or just observe it passing by. You can also take over it. You can jump on the train here and go and take over that portion of the timetable. I kind of like that. There's a 24-hour schedule running amongst 3 different trains, and you can go in and not only take over bits of it, but kind of interfere with it. I would be interested to see what happened if you switched one of the tracks and sent the train in the wrong direction, for example. Now, the services, 36 of them, are spread over the 3 locos. When you choose a loco, you can then choose the weather system before you choose the service that you want to do. What's interesting about that is you can change the weather to be either scenic and enjoyable, or you can change it to rainy, or even make it very challenging by making it winter, reduce the visibility. And if you really want to, you can just customize the whole thing to your heart's content and make it exactly how you want it. Having chosen your weather, you then go on to choose which service you want to take over. Now, the services do range anything from loading coal to a fuel run to just simply shunting cars around the yard. They are quite varied in nature and represent part of the 24-hour system that's always operational. Let's take a look at the settings and controls. If we go to the settings page, they're split by game, controls, screen, audio, and advanced settings. Now, under game settings, it's pretty obvious what they do. You can turn various things on and off within the game. The most notable one here for me is the units, where you can switch from imperial to metric. I would have liked to have also seen a separate control which allows you to change between Celsius and Fahrenheit, because the problem with this is it changes over not just miles per hour to kilometers per hour, but the temperature as well. And if you, for example, live in the UK or in Europe or in America, you want to be able to mix and match these things to get what you're more familiar with. Now, under the controls themselves, you can use an Xbox 360 controller, for example, and you can map all the different buttons as you like. You can, of course, just use the keyboard. If you've used the keyboard in Train Simulator, you'll be familiar with a lot of the controls. For example, WS is the reverser, A and D is the throttle, and the dynamic brake is full stop and comma, etc. Space for the horn, B for the bell, blah blah blah. You can remap these to your heart's content, but if you're used to them already from Train Simulator, then you'll be able to drop right in here in Train Sim World. Now on foot you have other controls, such as you can hide the HUD with F1, you can toggle the FPS with F3, and so on. Take a screenshot with Control F12, which is a particularly interesting key to use. You can mess about with the camera first person by pressing the 1 key. Number 2 and 3 will go outside. 8 is the free cam, so you can fly around. And then you've got the control arrow keys so that you can move the camera around and jump between the vehicles. The turntable is specific to Train Sim World, of course. When you jump into the turntable, you can use the WS key and the A and D keys to operate the turntable, or you can just click the buttons on the desk. It's up to you. Inside the locomotive, we've already covered. And if we go over to the screen now, I'm going to show you this in a second, actually in operation, but this is the high-level controls where you control the anti-aliasing, the V-Sync, and the graphics preset. You can control this in slightly more detail under advanced settings. In audio, I tended to knock back the music and the sound effects. They were a little bit loud, but other than that, I left everything pretty much as it is on default. So let's have a play now with the actual graphics settings, and you can see them in action. Let's talk about graphics settings and performance. I'm going to press F3 and turn on the FPS counter. Now you can see I'm getting roughly 40-42 FPS. This is on Ultra. However, it does depend where you look. For example, if I was to look back that way towards town, that will drop down to 30 FPS. Also, if there's another, I've noticed if there's another train coming the other way nearby with all the scenery and objects that brings, that will drop your FPS down as well. So on Ultra, I can average something around, let's say 30 FPS on average, you know, dropping down to say 25 when things get really, really complicated, and going up to 45 once we get up in the hills and there's not that much to draw. That's an Ultra. Now I've got a GTX 1080 graphics card and an i7 4790K processor, 32 gig of RAM, and my games are running off SSD. Just to give you an idea of, you know, what you're seeing in terms of what hardware I have. If we were to drop the settings down, if we go to display here, and then drop the settings down to low, now you can see the visual fidelity has completely changed, but so has the FPS. We can easily manage high 40s looking towards a complex direction, and looking this way I can actually get it sometimes to go all the way up to 50 or 60. What's curious about that though is, even though I've dropped it down to low, my FPS I would have thought would have hit over 60 at this point. So I'm kind of feeling like there may be some CPU bound aspect to this. I'm not really sure, but if we start to crank this back up now, if we go to medium, now you can see I'm getting sort of high 40s and 50s on medium, so it is actually performing slightly better on medium than it was on low, which is a little bit strange. And then we go up to high. I mean, high looks pretty good. And I can get decent FPS, like I'm not dropping below 30, even when I'm looking in the direction of the complicated buildings. And there's an awful lot of foliage, and I'm still rocking well over 40 FPS. So, you know, to me that would feel like the right thing to go for on high. But if I go for back on Ultra, you can see you get sort of shadowing within the trees, and it really does look very good, but it's probably not worth the occasional tanking. You saw it flash yellow then, where it drops under... so 20 to 30 goes yellow, under 20 goes red. Personally, I don't feel like it's worth Ultra, but then again, maybe it's built for, you know, future graphics card performance. Maybe it's doing more than today's graphics cards are actually capable of doing. Anyway, there are some other settings just over here. If you look at settings, and there's an anti-aliasing option. If you turn the anti-aliasing off, you'll notice straight away that it looks like some kind of, you know, dotted photo. And if you put anti-aliasing on FXAA, it improves it, but not a massive amount. TAA is most definitely the way to go. Under advanced settings, you can play around with individual things as well. You can change the view draw distance. So if I tilt it like that, so you can see the skyline there. If we go for advanced settings and then change the view distance down to say medium. There you go. You saw all that then just completely disappear. Right there. And you get more and more detail depending on how high you put that. So you might want to crank that one down. Post-processing quality. tends to sort of mess about with the lighting more than anything. I would have thought it would mess about with other things, but it just kind of changes the lighting that's going on. The foliage quality is interesting. If you put that on low, you'll see straight away what happens. And as you kind of crank it up, you can tweak it to whatever it is you want it to go to. For example, high like that. Again, you know, that looks pretty decent. That's perfectly playable. It looks smooth, doesn't look pixelated. I can see right into the distance. I've got good shadows on the trees. And I'm rocking a minimum of 30 FPS. So you can tweak this to your heart's content. But in some respects, I would have thought that this would have performed a little bit better. I would have thought it would have been hitting a rock-solid 60. But it doesn't appear to be the case at the moment. Like I say, when you get up into the mountain, it does hit 60. But when you're down, besides a lot of track and a lot of trains, then you can expect something in the 20s. So you may have to play with the settings, you know, for your particular hardware setup and whatever you feel comfortable with. Alright, to wrap up this video, let's take a quick ride on a train. Let's go spawn walking. Let's go for some winter clear. We'll set the location to be the Rockwood Mine, and there should be, according to the schedule, a train loading up at 11:15 AM, so we'll go with that. Here it is. Let's get rid of the FPS. Right, so what's happening here, and this is something you can do yourself. You can take over this particular route yourself because it's one of the services. But in comes a train, and he's going to load up and fill it with coal. And what's cool about this is we can actually watch it happen. And we can also... Oh, we just collected a hard hat, look at that. We can also, for example, jump on the back of this thing, and we can watch it fill up, which is kind of cool. We can then jump down the front and take a ride. Now, for some reason, when it's all snowy, I've noticed the FPS is absolutely beautiful. Look at this, we're getting a rock-solid 60 FPS. It does depend on a lot of factors as to what FPS you get. It depends on, well, your hardware, obviously, but it depends on what's around in terms of the scene, and it also depends on the weather settings you go for. Blizzard snow does tend to cause quite a bit of computation, I've noticed, and that can slow your FPS down. So what do I think about Train Sim CSX Heavy Haul? Let me get off here and jump down there before this guy drives off, because when he drives, he does accelerate fairly quickly. So let's jump in there like that. We're safe now. Open the door. Alright, Jeff. So this is Jeff. He's not very chatty. And Jim, they're not very chatty. I don't know. We'll stand out here and leave him to it. Well, CSX Heavy Haul is a next-gen train simulator. There's no doubt about that. It is a vast improvement graphically on what we're used to in Train Simulator, which was very dated. From what I understand, under the hood, the engine systems and the systems control and all that kind of thing, and the physics, they are all there. It should be a fairly open platform. So for third-party development, hopefully we're going to see some really exciting products. Graphically speaking, you can see the texturing on here. Look at it; it's beautiful. Full reflections and everything like that. Graphically speaking, it's pretty nice looking. There are some FPS concerns depending on your hardware, but you just have to crank your settings down if you can't cope with it. In terms of what you get out of the box, you get quite a lot. It's going to keep you busy for quite a few hours. But it's not... It's good value for money, but you've got to remember you're getting a brand new platform for your money. And going forward, we're going to be looking towards new DLC and that kind of thing. Now, I would have liked to have seen more tutorials, as I said to you earlier on in the video. And also would have liked to have seen, for example, full AI controller system implementation so that we can talk to the controllers and get clearance on the track and all that kind of thing. That's the direction I think it should go. I don't understand the leveling system at the moment, and there doesn't appear to be any difficulty ratings for scenarios, which they used to have in the old Train Simulator. And there's no scoring either, so I'm kind of curious as to what the whole level thing is. Maybe they've got future plans for that, I'm not sure. On the whole, I like Train Sim World CSX Heavy Haul. I think it's a great start. There's plenty here to keep you occupied for many hours. But, how quickly new DLC is going to come and how quickly third-party DLC is going to come remains to be seen. But that's what it's going to need to keep this thing going, keep the momentum going. If you do want to buy this thing before release, my Games Planet affiliate link can get you 20% off. If you want to wait and see what it's like on release, I will of course be making more videos of this, so I'll take you through some more scenarios in case you're just not really sure what you want to do. But if you do want to buy it before release, you can get 20% off that. So check out my video description and get a link to get your 20% off. It only applies before release day though, so after that you'll be paying full price again. Look at that water. But that's it for this review video of CSX Heavy Haul. Probably a bit too dangerous. Yeah, it won't let me jump out now, so you're kind of trapped on board this thing. So I'm just going to go pop inside now, and I'll take a seat and enjoy the journey. Until next time, guys, take care. Happy training.